Welcome back to the Budding Author podcast with me, your host, Simon Ward. Today, we're talking to a mystery guest. We have a mystery guest. We have Sasha Zarustin, but that, of course, is not his real name. He's undercover, aren't you, Sasha?
Hey Simon, yes, I am. Thank you for having me on your show. It's exactly the case. I didn't want to disclose my real identity for a few good reasons.
I think it's people sort of have problems with that sometimes. Sometimes some of the guests on the show, similar to yourself, are sort of a little bit nervous. Quite a lot of writers are quite shy people, and they don't like showing their face just for personal reasons, shyness reasons. But obviously, your reason is because of other business interests and that sort of thing, and you didn't want to conflict that.
Yeah, you said it exactly right. You know, I have a job that pays the bills, so to speak, and I don't want to mix that with a project that uh, it's something that writing is something that I always wanted to do, but it's not my profession, and
Yeah,
I'm not making any money on it, so it doesn't make sense to jeopardize my
yeah.
credibility. The other, go ahead.
I, I think from my point of view, I've had a very successful career as a lean manufacturing specialist, a Six Sigma black belt. So I go into companies and sort of help production efficiency. Um, but so my LinkedIn profile is my business profile. So none of my writing stuff is referred to on my business profile, and I've got separate email addresses, um, YouTube channels, Twitter accounts, Instagram accounts, TikTok accounts to separate the different things I do. So each one is specific. But I think the subject of pen names is quite a difficult one because if you write an adult book, a book with adult themes, and you also write a book for children, we need to sort of make sure that the children aren't reading the adult content for obvious reasons. So
Naturally.
I think within your book, you do have some sensitive issues to cover, and I think we should get onto that shortly. But your your first book, 2024 Attack on America, um, you the traction for a new author is so difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, the problem is that, and I found this the hard way, is that you write a book and nobody cares, and it's so hard to be heard through the noise. And you look for advice, on forums online, and you discovered that even advice that was given 10 years ago is outdated because 10 years ago things like KDP and self-publishing were in their infancy, so it was a lot easier to emerge, to come to the surface. Nowadays, there are literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of books being
Yeah.
published every year, and so nobody will read a thing, and it's just that you end up selling or giving away copies of your book to friends and family because by default nobody reads a thing.
Yeah, I think there's so many books being published now. Um, and now people can self-publish through Amazon very easily. There's very little filter for the quality. So there's so many books being produced and published, particularly self-published. But are they of a good quality? A lot of them that I'm coming across are not specifically of a good quality. So it's becoming more and more difficult to be seen as a legitimate author in this new sort of full world of lots of books. You say you've had some mistakes. What for people who are looking to self-publish and join and get books published as such? What kind of mistakes have you made that you could help other people with? You think?
So if I had to condense my advice to a new, to someone who is considering writing a book in one sentence, the advice would be don't write. I mean,
Don't worry.
no, because it doesn't make economic sense whatsoever. And above all, the incredible part is that writing the actual book is only 50% or less of the effort, and
Yeah.
it's the fun part. The other
Yeah.
50% is marketing, and marketing is not fun, and it's not, and it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's really bad. You wrote this book, and you think it's good. Maybe it is good, and nobody reads it. People will just look at the cover or take a random sentence. And use that to give feedback. And you go like, look, read the book and then give me feedback. Okay, you cannot read a sentence and give me feedback based on
Make a
that
judgment
sentence.
on a little bit. I think it's important at the very start of a book that you've got to grab the reader, because on Amazon people can read a sample of the book, and if you've not grabbed them with the quality of the writing and with the content in that first few pages, then they've gone, and
Yeah,
you're
so I
off.
disagree. I respectfully disagree in this sense that this cannot become a dictatorship. I mean, it cannot be high octane. If it's not high octane, it's not a good book. That's not okay. I mean, so actually, let me give you an example straight out of my experience. Um, I created a prologue in my book that was sort of high octane, but those. Rock songs where maybe it starts with violins and then all of a sudden hell breaks loose when the electric guitars and the drums kick in, right? And so
Yeah.
the violin was only infringement, and that's how the prologue of my book starts. The first couple of pages, it's a military scene. There is nothing exciting. Everything looks under control. We're so proud of our military, and then all of a sudden, crazy things start happening, and then you say, "Oh wow, what's going on here? How possible? I mean, how can this possibly happen?" Now, I look at the reviews on my on KDP on the Amazon page for my book, and some guy went, "Oh, I only read 2 pages, and I didn't like the dialogue, and so I dropped it." But so he spent not more than a couple of minutes on my book, but he spent probably like 5 or 6 minutes to put his review on both KDP and Goodreads. So come on, give me a
Oh, and
break. I mean,
Goodreads as well. So that's
yeah,
it's not very often you get to Goodreads, but it generally for Goodreads is for not so good reasons, I think. But
yeah,
I think Sasha, that's the challenge. I understand with what you're talking about, the way you structured your book. With my book Time to Click, there's a very explosive scene, horrific scene. But sort of to have all the build up to that scene would have people falling away. So I began the book after that scene, and sort of like the repercussions of that horrific act was how the book started, and to grab the attention of the reader, and then it sort of slotted back to the path where it led to that event. So in media res is the term, where you start off with the action to sort of give things a kickstart, and then drop into how you reach that point.
yeah.
So
But
a bit like the sliding doors kind of.
Simon, that's exactly how I did it. So my prologue is exactly like that. It's just that the first 2 pages convey the idea that everything is business as usual. You need to read the prologue. It's 5 or 6 pages, and then you say, "Oh wow, what's going on here?" So the structure is, in my book, is more or less what you described in your book. So there is something dramatic happening in the beginning, just not the first 50 lines.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
my point is that I don't want to be the subject to the tyranny of, oh my God, either there is an explosion in the first line, or your book is worth nothing. Because if we measure even successful literature from the past with that measure, then all of the major writers from the past would be crappy writers because they don't follow that scheme. The difference is just that those guys were writing in a time when there was very little offer. So people, people would just have a book or two to choose from, and they were bound to be successful. These days, everyone knows the tricks of the trade, and it's so hard to write a book that resonates with people because they don't read them.
Yeah, I think in more modern times, people are much more impatient. People like now, when people go into work, they want to be the CEO within 12 months. And people don't wait for things anymore. People don't want to work for things. They want it straight away. So, so with a book, people don't want to sort of build up the pattern and build up the understanding of the story. They want to sort of, where's the action? We want to sort of get straight into it. And it's hard when you're sort of comparing it to sort of like Dickens and that sort of thing.
Let me ask you a question. I can ask you a question. What if James Patterson or Stephen King or Dan Brown were to write a novel that starts slow, right? But the novel is great if you take the time. Then all the critics would be there.
There's a big difference there. They already have an audience,
right?
So people will read their stuff because of who they are. And that's the difference. I think as a new author like yourself, you've got to grab people's attention. And it's difficult. It's difficult to grab people's attention. It's difficult to get people to look at your book. And then if they look at the preview, if it's not grabbing them in the first few pages, then it's difficult. It's difficult. Yeah. But I think from your point of view, as we were saying before we came on air, the money's racking up that you've used for sort of putting the book together, for editing, formatting, and cover design and that sort of thing. And you've entered some competitions as well, haven't you? What's those?
Well, the Literary Titan has this award, and you send the book, and they will have the professional reviewers look at it, and I fared well in that. So it's they ended up totally seeing the point of the book, and the point of the book is that there are two subplots that automatically come together in the end, which is one is very relevant to our world today.
Oh, so you've paid some professional reviewers?
Yes.
And
yes.
Is that expensive? Do you think that's worth doing?
I should look up how much I paid, but depending on the credibility of the entity of the organization, anywhere between $50 to $400. Paradoxically,
50 to 100, yeah.
$400.
$400 for a review.
Yeah, I paid $400 for a very scammy. So there is this company that has been existing since 1930s called Kirkus Review. And they were the most expensive, but they turned out to be a total scam. They didn't even care about reading my book. They just, in their terms and conditions, they said they would give a review based on the book, but I can demonstrate that they only read the first 3 chapters, and they derived, they even failed to see the antagonist in the book. So they made such a bad job at it. So there is, this leads me to another problem, that there are so many writers that a whole industry of more or less serious entities has come up just to milk those writers by giving them services like reviews, awards.
I think you're spot on there. You're spot on there. I think that as crazy as it is, there's more money to be made from the people who are trying to make money off writers rather than the writers themselves.
That's exactly correct. It's what is going on. It's crazy, but it's true. People don't make money by writing novels or books, but they make money by writing meta books on how to be a writer, because there is an audience for that.
One of my earlier shows was don't do it for the money. You've got to enjoy the process and enjoy writing. And I do that. As much as I'd like to make money writing, I enjoy the writing process, and I enjoy sharing my stories. I
Yes.
think if I sort of set out sort of to try and make a living from doing this, I think I would have picked the wrong job, I think.
Simon, we're exactly in the same boat. And I tell you, it gives me, writing the book was a lot of fun. And when someone I know reads the book, and then, they come back to me and say, Sasha, I can't believe you wrote this, and they're quoting me the parts that they enjoyed and what happened, how the characters reacted, all the
Yeah.
drama. They go like, "Oh my God, how did you even? Could you even come up with this?" Right? So that's the really fun part. And I think that if my name was out there, a lot more people would enjoy it because when I look at the reviews, I quoted a bad review, but 80% of the reviews are 4 stars or more on both
Yeah.
KDP and Goodreads. So people like my book. But of
Well,
course, the problem
you
is
can't please everybody. You can't please everybody.
no, exactly, you can't. But it's. I think that there is something good about the book because people see all the drama. This guy. So actually, let me go back to the question earlier. There are two subplots. One is about artificial intelligence, which is one of the big issues of our time. But there is another big issue of our time, which is the world we live in is changing. I will quote the Me Too movement. I will quote, the rights of. I would call like female empowerment.
Yeah.
The equality, and then of course the LGBTQ movement and all of this. And dudes, the male are on the receiving end of all this change, and they are the ones that used to have a role in society, and that role is being brought into discussion, right? And
Yeah.
it's easy to make a book where the hero is Chuck Norris or someone, but
Yeah.
who talks, who will bring on stage the voice of the average guy who is male,
Yeah.
who has been who was brought up with certain values, and all of a sudden everything is changing, and they go like, oh, you are a white male heterosexual, what are you even talking? Well, so this is a book where this guy who is not Chuck Norris, he's talking, or through his actions, through his thoughts. But it's I have this feeling that it's a voice that is sort of missing from the literary landscape, from the current literary landscape.
I think it's either missing or it's not gaining traction. That's the question, isn't it?
Sorry, what's not gaining traction?
The books, there either aren't any books doing that and saying that, or there are books there. They're just not getting any traction. They're not getting out there. They're not getting pushed to the front.
Yeah, there are hundreds of thousands of novels out there, so quite likely that other books you can find other books that bring the same issue to the front. But honestly, I wouldn't be able to mention any book that has been featured on the New York Times bestseller list or any other major literary outlet that takes up this theme. In fact, I think there is some kind of racism and discrimination against authors that write about these things. One of the reviewers on Amazon wrote, "Oh, in the book, a transgender is being misgendered." That's why I give the book 1 star. So if one of your characters kills someone, that's okay. But if one of your characters misgender a dude with a wig, oh my God, 1 star. This is not acceptable. And this is really the tip of an iceberg of a whole industry. Yeah, you can look at it for yourself. This is the tip of the iceberg of a culture that has taken over the literary world. It's just like IT is male dominated, the literary landscape is female dominated.
Yes,
you look at you look at the New York Times bestseller list, and they did a couple of months ago best books of the century or something, and you have my brilliant friend from an Italian author. I read the book. To me, it left me cold to put it mildly. But how can that be the best book of the century? It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, I'm okay if women like it, but it's like the pendulum has totally shifted to one of the extremes, right? And
Yeah.
and to me, this is not fair. I mean, there has to be space for other voices as well.
But I think it's a what people buy, isn't it? If as good as the message might be, if people aren't buying that, then the message gets lost, doesn't it?
So my take is that in this world of artificial intelligence and A/B testing, I'm not sure if you're familiar with A/B testing. So the as they look at data, it's you end up with polarization, just like in politics, right?
Yeah.
So balanced point of views, they don't quite sell. What sells is going either all the way to the left or all the way to the right.
Yeah.
It's there is less and less space for moderation in politics and in many other areas of our society. And this is
I
crazy.
think that's true. Do you think that's going to come back to the centre, or do you think it's stuck?
I think it has to come back to the center because we because I have this feeling that things are spinning out of control. I mean, I don't want to talk about politics, but I look at the U.S. and now you have these two incompatible extremes at the left and the right, and it will all boil down to what a couple of counties in Pennsylvania
Yeah.
will vote to know if a country as important as the United States you know, will go the Trump way or the Kamala Harris way.
Kamala Harris.
And to me, this is crazy. I so wish that there was something in the middle that I can pick because it's crazy. It's okay. I don't want to make this a political discussion. I want to talk about my book.
So,
Actually,
so what?
can I, sorry for interrupting. Can I do another comment? In one reason why some may not appreciate my book is that I make in the book I make fun of tropes that are dear to the left, but
Yeah.
I also make fun of tropes that are dear to the right. So I hope, and a lot of readers appreciated this, but I suspect that some other readers may not because they may not like the fact that Dexter is misgendering a transgender
Yeah.
person, and but at the same time, someone from the right may not like the fact that I talk about climate change or that I talk about gun control. I mean, it's not the main topic, but there are some pot shots here and there where I make fun of those tropes.
Yeah.
So
Do you
it's
feel do you feel that you needed to get that out of your system to write the book? Is that what it was for you?
yes. So I'm an IT guy, but I always like to write, and I thought I had a novel in me. So it was fun. It was fun it was also a way to get really intimate with languages, English
Yeah.
and another European language, which I won't mention now.
Yeah.
So it was writing was a fantastic experience. It was fun. It's fun to tell your friends about it, to see the reaction when they read the book. Now, unfortunately, I'm in the marketing phase, and it's a lot more expensive and a lot less
Marketing,
fun.
yeah, the marketing side of things is quite expensive. In the future, do you think you'll do more books, or do you think maybe write short stories instead?
So I'm collecting ideas about the next book, which will be in the a book in the same series as 2024 Attack on America.
Yeah.
Because now if when you read the book, you will find that there are a few really interesting characters with unlimited potential about what they can do once I unleash them in this world.
So you sort of you want to sort of write another novel, sort of connect, following on from that, yeah.
Yes, but the problem is that I don't even know if I should mention this, but I had this doubt. So the book is written from the point of view of the main character,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering, should I keep having the same point of view from the same character in the other novel, or should I be brave and jump in the head of one of the other characters and
I think
look at
it
things?
depends whether the story's continuing and who the main character is really. If the main character remains the same, then continuing with the same character would make sense. When you're putting your novel together, were you more of a pantser or a planner, plotzer?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So I think I totally get the question, and I think I can tell you that I'm in the middle, because I have a rough outline of where the book is headed, and I really need that, because otherwise, with so much complexity, it would be hard to make all ends meet, right? If you cannot be a pantser and hope that things will come together. You have to make sure that the dates and a ton of details that have to come together. But then once I have the rough outline, there is so much pantsing going on. Like, I get ideas as I go, and a lot of crazy things happen that they're just born. I say, hold on a second, but this guy, what if this other guy said this? How would the main character handle getting out of his comfort zone, or I should say, their comfort zone? But I know he's a dude. So.
Stephen King, of course, is the king of the pantsers. But he seems to work it out all right, doesn't he? But I think for me, you can have it plotted out, but then as you're writing the story, the characters sort of take control of the story and start leading it in different directions. And I love that when my characters sort of try to take over my story. It's quite weird, really.
Yeah, it's I mean, you talk about characters having a life of their own. I see it more like I'm God, and I make them do what I want. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. But I like this sense of empowerment of making fictional characters do what I want. You cannot do in real life, of course, because everyone else.
I think unless you're a politician, then you can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. That's a fun way to put it.
Sasha, this has been fantastic. I wish you very, very well with the book. 2024 Attack on America. So lots of sensitive subjects in there. And we have to be careful, of course, around sensitive subjects, because we can trigger people. And I had an interview recently talking about triggers and how to handle triggers. So maybe that's one for people to have a look at. And see how we can cover that base, as it were, and sort of do it sympathetically, without upsetting too many people. I think that's the challenge, isn't it? But, it's been great. It's been great to have you on.
Just one second comment. Yeah, avoid triggers, but not too much, because otherwise you end up writing a really boring novel.
Well, that's it. You've got to have challenges in there, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got to have challenges.
Simon, thanks a ton for having me on your show. This was fun, and good luck with your novels.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good one. Thanks everybody for watching. Good stuff.